was kind of a long affair from what I understand. Burchett on the play, fetching up a snow-covered island and an astrolabe on turn 1.
Now, Edgar's trusty Amulet Titan deck that him and his cronies play.
Cronies.
You know, him and his cronies play. Basically every modern event, except when it's like randomly not good for that weekend. They switch off of it on occasion, but for the most part, Helm, Daryl Ayers, and Matt Dilks have all been playing this Amulet Titan deck in Modern for the entire year. And their success with the archetype has been ridiculous.
Yeah, Dilks with a win last weekend in the Modern seat of the Team Open.
Yep. Who was the odd man out? Was it Edgar? Because I know they left somebody out. They picked up Rossum.
Yeah, they picked up Rossum, so it was, yeah, Edgar was, it was Ayers, Dilks, Rossum. So okay. Edgar was not on the squad for that week.
But this Amulet Titan deck did get a huge pickup from the new set with Once Upon a Time. This is the one deck in Modern that I think Once Upon a Time fits into perfectly. Because you have so many lands that are important, and Once Upon a Time can dig for those early on. But you also have more ways to look for Primeval Titan, more ways to look for Secure Tribe Scout on turn 1. It's just a phenomenal card in the archetype.
You're also the kind of deck that's going to have green mana / 2 mana around. For example, on turn 2, often the Amulet Titan deck's just kind of not doing much with its mana. So right. Paying 2 for the spell is totally reasonable. Whereas in Tron, if your second land is Forest, you're losing the game.
Right. I mean, that's certainly true, but I will say that I have liked it in various Tron builds, but I think you need to kind of build your list with Once Upon a Time in mind. That means moving away from things like Ugin the Spirit Dragon and towards things like more making sure you play the 4/4 Wormcoil Engine, maybe main deck some Thragtusk, things like that.
Both players getting online here about turn 3 at Psy Master Thopterus for Burchett, making 1 Thopter. Magalhaes had that as Souza. Field of the Dead, another pretty big upgrade for this deck. You see it show up, and the Titan deck can actually just win with zombies sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't have Amulet of Vigor on the table, finding a Field of the Dead off of a Primeval Titan often gives you enough resources to go wide to not only like punish your opponent if they kill your Primeval Titan, but also just to have an alternate win condition if your opponent is able to really lock down your other strategies.
And here's something we're starting to see a bit in Modern. You saw Burchett fetch up Mystic Sanctuary, put a Serum Visions on top, and cast another Serum Visions, so they knew that the card that they were drawing was going to be a good one, and they got to scry before they drew off the second copy of Serum Visions. Yeah,
Autumn here really, my guess is looking for exactly Urza, just because Urza is the backbone of the deck, giving you access to a boatload of mana.
And here's Grinding Station, now 2 Thopters there. 1 knocks Edgar to 19.
Grinding Station is a newer addition to the deck that actually becomes a mana battery once you have Urza on the battlefield, especially if you have something like Psy as well, because it gets so many of those untapped triggers.
And you saw the first activation. That milled Edgar. You can run the Titan deck out of ways that win the game.
Yeah, I don't think Autumn's going for that specifically. Autumn, you know, could potentially try to mill over, you know, the haste land or something like that, or the double strike land.
Here's an Engineered Explosives on 0. Looks a little amusing next to those 3 Thopter tokens.
Right.
But it's just more Psy activations. The Grinding Station did only go off once, so Burchett maintaining a lot of blockers here. And here's Primeval Titan for Magalhaes.
This is really where it starts to get going. And now with the Field of the Dead, Edgar's going to be able to generate a lot of pressure. Floats a blue, so now he can also return something or transmute Talaria West. Go get Pact of Negation to make sure that Autumn can't have an overly explosive turn next turn. As long as Edgar uses that Pact of Negation on Urza, it's going to really constrict the mana generation potential for Autumn.
So there was no Amulet, no hasty shenanigans, so Magalhaes is going to have to settle for Titan and 3 zombies off of this turn. Not a bad setup, though. We'll see what Burchett can do about it.
I mean, with the Pact of Negation looming, I don't know that there's a ton that Autumn can do to necessarily get out of this right now.
One of those lands for Edgar is that Sun Home, so the Titan could have double strike next turn. Burchett's going to cast Mirrodin Besieged. They said the title of the movie in the movie.
So here's one that Edgar actually might be forced to counter. Now, here's a cool thing. If Burchett names, I believe it's because you name either Mirrodin or Besieged. Mirrodin makes the 1/1s, and Besieged potentially wins you the game. Now, with Grinding Station, if Autumn just has like a couple of cheap or free artifacts in hand, Autumn can just start milling themselves for 3 cards every time they play an artifact. And then, at the end of turn, they do the loot discard and potentially just win the game.
Yeah, so you see some tokens showing up off of this Mox Opal that Burchett is casting. Grinding Station going off. Probably going to see a lot of game actions this turn.
Yeah, so here comes a sack 2 artifacts from Sai. Gonna mill some stuff with Grinding Station, looking for more zeros. Looking to try to get 14 artifacts into the graveyard so that at the end of turn you get the loot with Mirrodin Besiege and discard. And if you have 15 artifacts, you win the game.
I've seen this attempted in Horizon's booster draft. It was not as good there. This Grinding Station, it's been impressive.
Yeah.
Earlier this round saw a possible attempt at a turn 1 combo with Kethis, and we're seeing it mill a lot of cards for Burchett here.
I don't know how many artifacts are in Burchett's graveyard, but I'm guessing not quite enough. Otherwise, this would have been an easy win the game. Magalhaes does get to untap, still has Force Negation in hand because he chose not to use it on the Mirrodin Besieged. We'll see if he can close the game out this turn somehow.
He'll start by transmuting Teleria West, finds Engineered Explosives. It's like setting that one on 3. That takes care of the Mirrodin Besieged and the Sai.
Yeah, it makes it so that it's going to be a lot harder for Autumn to potentially win the game next turn, especially with the Force Negation in hand for Edgar. He's going to get an attack here with the Primeval Titan. Going to probably find just more ways to generate advantage over time with Teleria West Bounce Land. May exile Graveyard with Bajuka Bog. That's pretty smart, too.
It's like Bog Growth Chamber found with the Titan. Also attacking with the 3 zombies and Asusa. The Asusa is under the threat of the explosives as well.
Yeah, and of course making more zombies with the Field of the Dead, too.
So Autumn going to look at some blocks. Sai jumps in front of a zombie. Thopter in front of a second.
I gotta say, the Mirrodin Besiege is not looking nearly as threatening with the entire graveyard exiled from the Bajuka Bog.
Another zombie showing up off of a land drop from Magalhaes. What do we have? 8 zombies now? Yeah, Burchett's seen enough.
A lot of game action that previous turn. Couldn't quite find the required 15 artifacts to put in the graveyard. Perhaps could have milled themselves the turn prior a little more, but might not have actually had the Mirrodin Besiege at the ready. Might have also cost them a little too many resources. And Edgar, if had the opportunity, to lose that turn pretty easily, could have just burned the Force Negation. So,
right. Players looking at some sideboarding. Edgar has some pretty diverse options here. A Cavern of Souls, 2 Disdainful Strokes, 3 Dismember, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Obstinate Baloth, a Tireless Tracker, a Ramyap Excavator, and a Field of the Dead.
I feel like Edgar here should just kind of stay the course. Very few cards in his deck are bad. I think the cards, even though there is a Mirrodin Besiege in Autumn's deck, I don't think that you need the Bajuka Bog, and I don't think you need the Ghost Quarter. I think both those can probably come out. I would bring in the second Cavern of Souls because a lot of these outcome decks do sideboard things like Disdainful Stroke to potentially interact with your Primeval Titans, and Cavern of Souls is kind of the freebie way to just straight up beat those archetypes. I wouldn't bother with Force of Vigor if I'm Edgar. I would just maybe bring in some Disdainful Strokes of my own to counter those Urzas and those outcomes, because those are the backbone of the deck. Your deck can beat the Psy Master Thopterist plan or the Saheeli plan very easily, and I think you just need to make sure that you don't lose to Outcome Urza.
I like what you said about the green force there. Obviously, the Urza Outcome deck plays a lot of artifacts, but you're not like playing an attrition game against them. You just have to stop their combos.
Right, I mean, you notice most of the artifacts Autumn played last game were for 0, and the artifacts did nothing except be artifacts. You know, and that's mostly because having redundant copies of things like having redundant 0s is great because of Urza's fast mana ability, but you know, that means that disenchant effects in general are just pretty bad.
So Burchett just with a couple lands to start. Magalhaes on turn 2 has 2 amulets.
Yeah, and if he has a green bounce land on turn 3, that gives him 4 mana and the required 2 green to cast a Primeval Titan, and that can go get all those combo lands. So Edgar looking like he's having a pretty good start here.
Burchett fetches the 19, so the mana-based Snow-Covered Island, Hallowed Fountain, and now a Flooded Strand joining the party. Just leaving up the mana here, though.
Yeah, if you're taking a look at the cardboard live extension, you'll see a Stoke Rebuttal in Autumn sideboard, and definitely one hanging out in their hand.
Saw Magalhaes, while shuffling the hand, just dropped a 3rd amulet on the table. So Burchett knows about that. But no 3rd land here.
Ooh, no.
Just passing another turn.
Doesn't play the 3rd amulet as well because he doesn't want to run into an Engineering Explosives.
Yep, nice to have that backup amulet. And there is Explosives on 1.
Now, if you're Autumn, do you just go ahead and main phase pop this, or do you continue to hold up Stoke Rebuttal?
That's an interesting question. I'm sure that seeing that 3rd amulet informs the decision some.
Sure. It's potentially a pretty big misstep here from Edgar.
A fumble. And Burchett's going to pass just with 3 mana up. See if Magalhaes can even just hit this 3rd land drop. I believe Tolaria West at the front of the hand.
Yeah, and that can generate mana, but most of the deck from Edgar's side of things is green.
Yep.
So can't really do much of anything with a Tolaria West outside of just playing it. Chooses not even to play it, gonna hold it.
It just discards a Sakura Tribe Scout to hand size. Burchett will fetch to 17. Not a Snow-Covered Island, now 4 mana at the ready. And here's Urza.
Trigger on the stack. Edgar is going to use Dismember on it. That will let Autumn float 2 mana, crack the Engineering Explosives to kill the Amulet of Vigors, plural. But Autumn, out of everything, is left with that Karnstruct token.
Magalhaes to 18 off of that. Bajuka Bog helping a little bit. Tolaria West tapped go. It's going to be his turn. Burchett's going to add some artifacts to pump up this token here. A couple Astrolabes.
And here you might see the like really powerful sideboard game nature of the Urza Outcome deck, because just playing an Urza giving you that construct allows you to occasionally just become a beatdown deck with some disruption. You see Autumn still has Stoke Rebuttal at the ready.
Yeah, there was an attack for 3 there. Magalhaes to 15, and Emery joined the party for Burchett. Magalhaes plays Cavernous Souls on Snake or some such and casts a Tribe Scout.
Could have been Scout.
Could have been Scout.
I don't know that there are any other Snakes or Scouts in the deck, so I don't think it's relevant.
Unclear.
Still going to point it out.
Here's an Explosives on 0 and a Mox Opal. I believe an attack for 5 with the Construct. One of those brought back with Emery.
Now, end of turn, Autumn here going to cast a Paradox Outcome targeting the 4 artifacts. Not going to bounce the Emery. Of course, it does say non-token, so you can't bounce like the Construct or the Thopters or Servos from those 3 drops. But
there's going to be a big attack this turn, because before recommitting, here's Psy Master Thopterist. Mox Opal, Mox Amber, Thopter, Arkham's Astrolabe, Thopter. Emery brings back Everflowing Chalice on 0, still brings a Thopter with it. You are casting it from the graveyard. Another Explosives on 0, there's a Thopter. Construct attacks for what? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Yeah, Construct's just going to go to the distance. So it was a chump block, and next turn it's going to get him. So
normal
Magalhaes
beatdowns.
picks him up.
Magalhaes kept what looked like a pretty weak hand with no green mana, but sometimes I think it's okay to gamble with your deck in spots like that. You know, like with multiple copies of Amulet of Vigor, just needing one of 12 cards off the top of the deck. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, the deck has a lot of good selection. In particular, Once Upon a Time costing 0 in a number of the games helps a lot. You just need two things, right? You need Titan mana and you need Titan. And if you're close to having both, it justifies a lot of keeps.
I mean, we didn't get a good look the previous game. He might have even mulliganed to 6 or 5 also, you know.
Players starting here. No turn 1 play for Magalhaes this time. There's an Astrolabe for Burchett.
Both players now playing at lightning speed, not only because we've put it in fast forward mode or whatever, but also just because they both know that it's getting close to time in the round and they want to finish this match.
And just over 10 minutes in the round as players are starting game number 3 here. Chalice on 0 to enable a Mox Opal for Burchett.
Of course, that is the not off to use Everflowing Chalice.
Right, not to be confused with Chalice of the Void, which would have a very different context for this deck on 0.
Yeah, and it's also just extremely good against the Urza Outcome deck. I'm very surprised not a lot more decks have started boarding Chalice of the Void in order to help fight against it. So it even stops the multi-kicker on Everflowing Chalice, which is pretty funny because it's not an X spell, it's a multi-kicker spell.
Yep, the top right-hand corner is always 0 on that one.
Here's an Azusa for Edgar. So after this mulligan, got access to 6 mana on turn 4, thanks to the bounce lands and the Azusa. See if Autumn can combo off here on their turn 3.
So far, so good on land drops. Polluted Delta, land number 3 for Burchett, fetching to 19.
I saw a Paradox Outcome. If Autumn has the Urza to make a ton of mana, chances are this game is as good as over.
Another Explosives on 0. Outcome. Picking up all these artifacts. I believe 6 cards will be drawn here.
Okay, so probably not going to be able to cast Urza since they've already played a land. They would need 4 Moxen. So going to move to discard here.
And we are officially caught up. This is real time.
Ooh. No more fast forwarding for us.
I like the fast forward feature a lot.
Yeah. I don't like watching anything at 1x speed, not even real life.
No.
It's too slow.
Yeah.
Speed it up.
What's that movie with Will Smith where he has the remote where he can speed up? He's like an actual remote control, but real life. Is it? What's that? Click. With Adam Sandler, is that right? Maybe they came out at the same time and I'm complaining it too. So I was trying to think of...
Is this a Shazam-Kazam moment?
It could be. Well, what's that called? The Nelson Mandela effect?
Yeah.
I'm remembering something that never existed.
Right. Well, no, it's not that Nelson Mandela
approximately existed.
It's that the whole thing was that a lot of people thought Nelson Mandela passed away a long time ago.
Right.
Turns out he's still alive.
Until most recently.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that another Mandela effect? Because I don't remember...
We're going pretty deep down some kind of rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, that's just because both players are just doing weird combo stuff.
Anyway, they pay us to talk about Magic. Let's try to talk about Magic. Here's a Primeval Titan. Picks up a couple forests. They'll be redeployed for Magalhaes.
Don't tell me what to do.
That's true. You can do whatever you want. I will not be the one to punish you.
That's fair.
Yeah. Here's Explosives. Burchett redeployed some of those 0s. They'll get destroyed. Boom goes the Dynamite.
All right. So the Explosives on 0 does kill Mox Opal, Overflowing Chalice, and look like an engineered Explosives. But I think Edgar just trying to shut Autumn off of a bit of mana. Now Autumn here, don't know if they've actually found Urza yet. Urza would make it super easy, but without Urza, you have to play just kind of like a normal fair game of Magic. And it's really hard to beat Primeval Titan playing a normal fair game of Magic.
Shock for land number 4. Hallowed Fountain putting Burchett to 16. Here's Sidemaster Thopterist. Arkham's Astrolabe will make a Thopter. Picked up Monastery Mentor, though. Little light on mana for that sort of thing. Mox Opal makes another Thopter. Another Astrolabe, another Thopter.
Second Monster Mentor. That's not really where you want to be against a Primeval Titan. And I think that Autumn is basically out of juice, at least for this turn. 2 Mentors, Paradox Outcome, Mystic Sanctuary, and Astrolabe in hand just has to ship it back, and Edgar here can have one heck of a turn.
Now, they really needed to have started this turn with one of these token maker effects. Perhaps if they had 2 online already, you could muster the kind of stuff that could go toe-to-toe with a Titan.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you just don't have the mana generation, right? Like, the Mox Opal got blown up. Without Urza proper, you just don't have the ability to keep up with a Primeval Titan's mana generation. Primeval Titan is the Amulet Titan's version, right? Like they just have more virtual copies.
Staring down 7 toughness, Magalhaes is going to figure out what to do with this Titan.
I doubt that Edgar can win this turn, but there's a very good chance that he's able to effectively lock it up this turn by transmuting for various Pact of Negation type effects, Injure Explosives, things of that nature. Now, with Injure Explosives, could potentially pop it on 0, clean up the Mox Opal again and all the Thopter tokens, and that'll allow for a reasonable size attack here.
So there it is, transmuted for and cast for 0. 1 green was floating. That's going to go away. Here's an attack with the Titan.
I think that is more of an insurance policy than anything. But depending on how Burchett blocks, I don't think there's anything that Edgar can do to kill here, since the double strike land will enter the battlefield tapped this turn.
Yeah, no amulet this game. It's like Celestia Sanctuary, another copy of Telaria West.
Yeah, not enough blue to activate it this turn, though, but we'll return to hand for potentially finding it next turn.
And we'll see what Burchett has to say about any kind of block. Looks like just 6 coming in. Burchett to 10. Gemstone Mine is the land for Magalhaes. And passes, leaving the explosives up. If you have it up on Burchett's turn, you can respond to a paradoxical outcome.
Yeah, I think that's what Edgar's going for. Maybe he regrets blowing it for 0 last turn. Realized that Autumn could have just had Urza into a ton of 0s, Paradox Outcome, and still just kill him with the shields virtually down. But having the ability to blow up all the 0s in response to the Paradox Outcome is fairly powerful. But again, we get to Autumn's turn, and while Autumn can do some really gross stuff, needs to find that Urza. Needs to be able to generate extra mana here in some way or another.
Astrolabe making a Thopter is where Burchett
There it is.
starts. Yeah, Urza off the top.
See, the pace is going to quicken a little bit here because Autumn was able to find the Urza. Now the question is, when does Edgar want to blow the explosives? And I think it's going to be in response to the Urza entering the battlefield, because all of those tokens from the Sai effectively count as 4 extra mana here.
Urza, Lord High Artificer on the stack. And Edgar's going to give it a think. This game likely revolves around this spell and what to do with the explosives.
Yeah, and I think both players should be able to close the game out within the time-shifted turns at the end of the game regardless. So that's not really a factor. They just want to make sure that they don't mess this up, because this is the turn that matters the most in the entire game.
So the options are pop the explosives with the Urza on the stack, maybe pop it with the make a token trigger on the stack, or just sit on it.
Yeah, sit on it's not a terrible idea, though, because you can potentially brick the Paradox Outcome a little bit, but constraining a lot of this mana here could be good too. But it looks like Edgar actually has something else here. Maybe Force of Vigor. Maybe Force of Vigor is the card that's coming out here.
And it is, and it's going to target the 2 1-mana artifacts, both the Astrolabes. So we could just get them all here.
Yeah, so if he blows up both astrolabes,
Correction, there's a third astrolabe, but gets a lot of the board anyway.
gets 2 astrolabes, is able to explosives to get the Mox and the 4 tokens. That's going to leave Autumn without very much mana this turn. Edgar might actually be able to kill next turn.
So 2 astrolabes down, 1 remaining. Still looking at Urza on the stack. Still has the garrison to pay for the explosives, but lets it go, and here's the token.
A lot of that is because even if Autumn's able to cast Paradoxical Outcome this turn, they can't target very many things. You know, all the tokens that are on the battlefield are not valid targets for Paradoxical Outcome. So these 4 tokens here can generate 4 mana. And then if Autumn does want to go for the PO, has to target Mox Opal, Astrolabe, Urza, and Sai, and that's it.
Here's the Mystic Sanctuary as the land for turn. Enters untap. Looks like Paradoxical Outcome going to the top of the library.
All right, looks like we have entered into turns as well. So this will be turn 0 of extra turns. Means Edgar's going to have 3 turns to try to deal lethal. Autumn's going to have this one and 2 more.
Burchett looking at, maybe he was casting a spell, might have been an attack with the Thopters, but he's going to use the Astrolabe, perhaps casting Monastery Mentor here.
Maybe casting another Astrolabe. You have to make the snow mana.
True. Yeah, it's the only avenue to non-blue mana or snow mana. Looks like blue mana being generated, though.
Oh, Autumn is floating a snow mana, and then is going to Paradox Outcome back the Astrolabe and be able to cast the Astrolabe.
That is what we're seeing here. So 1 snow blue floating, outcome cast off of the Thopters.
Yeah, so only 2 targets here, but has the other Paradox Outcome on top of the deck. And I think Edgar has the bite here with the explosives because you have to kill the Mox Opal. It's going to mean too much mana and too many cards.
Yeah, the Mox Opal is another mana on the way back and another Thopter. But that goes off, so Burchett will draw 2 cards, still has snow blue floating.
Yeah, and the snow mana here can cast the Astrolabe, draw a card, and make a Thopter. Mox Opal can come down, make another Thopter. And this actually might be enough for Autumn to just start going off. And Edgar may have made a serious misstep here.
So there's Astrolabe. Thopter shows up as well, no more mana in the pool. But now 2 artifacts hanging out that the Urza can use to tap for blue. Here's that Mox Opal, another Thopter. Now 4 potential mana, 5 with the Sanctuary. And we know about that other outcome in the hand. Explosives on 0. Another Thopter.
Kind of would have liked actually, or at least the tank here. Autumn could have played the explosives as the first artifact on this second iteration, tapped it and the Thopter generated to blow for 0 to pop Edgar's explosives now, and then would have had a bunch of extra mana here off the Mox and the Astrolabe. But
yeah, it is interesting. So here's 4 blue, and then the snow mana floated again, making sure that they can cast the Astrolabe after the outcome.
Autumn here can actually sack Mox Opal and a token to draw a card, play another Mox Opal, and not lose much, but going to choose instead to value the mana a little bit higher, which I don't disagree with either.
They're giving it a real think. So Opal's sticking around in the hand for a bit. Here comes the other outcome. It's like 3 targets this time. The explosives, the Astrolabe, and the Opal. Once again, Edgar looking at that explosives on 0.
Yeah, and he may have waited a little too long here, but I still think blowing it here is not that bad either, because then the only thing getting bounced is the Astrolabe, and Autumn's only drawing 1 card and then replaying it to draw 3. But I think at this point Edgar has just decided, well, I'm going to blow up all your tokens and stuff during the end step, and I'm going to get in a fresh swing here with the Primeval Titan.
So the outcome goes off. Burchett draws 3.
So now if Burchett drew another paradoxical outcome, this might be a prime spot to actually do the explosives thing I talked about, where you play explosives, get a token. You can go ahead and pop it for 0 to get rid of the opposing explosives, and then there's no more interaction for the rest of your turn.
Okay, here's explosives for 0. There's a Thopter. Snow blue floating. I really enjoy saying that, by the way.
How much blue?
Snow blue.
There it is.
And snow blue. Snow blue still floating. Here goes the explosives on 0 to get the explosives on 0.
Yeah, I like this as a kind of a mini reset. You do it yourself, but you make it so that now the rest of your turn is relatively unfettered, and you can just do basically whatever you want. Autumn here has another Mox Opal and Mox Amber in hand. The ability to generate a lot of tokens. Maybe the ability to combo off this turn. And I think Edgar might have actually just made a serious misstep this game.
I think kind of the floor for what Autumn does from here involves just making white mana with Opal, casting Mentor, making just a ton of tokens that can lethal next turn and hold off the Titan. But they might be able to do better than that.
Yeah, at the very least, I would like to see Autumn go ahead and cast a Mentor now before doing much else. I don't believe Autumn has ways to draw a card other than Psy, but maybe it's worthwhile just to focus on that and trying to kill, and that extra 3 mana you spend on Mentor doesn't really do that.
So here is Mentor.
If you're at home and you're watching this game, I just want to point out that I think this is unacceptable. This is just not a thing you should be able to do. Take a 14-minute turn, you know. And this is not a neg on Autumn, right? Autumn's just playing what a lot of people, including myself, believe to be the best deck. But the fast mana produced from Urza, Lord High Artificer, is just so absurd.
So if I invited you to my place to watch me play solitaire on like a Friday night, you would not take my invite?
Are you streaming? Are we streaming? Are we drinking? We
can drink, but like you can't play.
Oh.
The rule is you have to watch me play.
What's in it for me?
My camaraderie.
I'm good. I'm good. I think I'm all right.
You're not into that?
No. Oh, also, Autumn just has a Stoke Rebuttal still.
Yeah, Stoke Rebuttal just hanging out. Urza makes it really easy to cast that counter spell. Here you see another update from Throne of Eldraine. Witching Well. Tough card to say. Witching Well.
Yeah, because normally you think Wishing Well.
Right.
But
got a brain block on that one.
Yeah, there's a witch in it. It's like Ringu.
What is that?
The Ring? Never seen The Ring? Never heard of it?
I've heard of it. Never saw it. Not my speed.
Yeah. There's a well. There's a scary ghost in it. It's very, very scary.
It tells you you're going to die in 7 days.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
See, that's how long it's going to take for this game to end.
7
days.
We went to turns, and Autumn just says to
Can I have fewer?
7 days.
Yeah. Can I have fewer turns, please?
We don't need 5. I'll take turn 0. Figure this out.
Great.
2 Mentors and a Psy going. No shortage of tokens for Burchett.
Yeah. Burchett could actually still just continue with Psy tapping the artifacts for mana and then attacking them to draw cards. He's going to choose to just sit back on Stoke Rebuttal here, put up a lot of blockers in front of this Primeval Titan, and then potentially go for the kill next turn.
All right, so we did get to turn 1.
Great.
See what Magalhaes can do with it.
If I'm Edgar, I'm actually like ecstatic that I get another turn. I'm curious to see what he's able to put together here. He's already used 2 engineered explosives. I don't know that his list has a third. So I don't really know what else he can do here. Walking Ballista for 10 somehow, maybe.
Our commentary compatriot, Matthias Hunt, likes to refer to Primeval Titan as 2 demonic tutors. In this game, it's looking a lot closer to 1 colossal Dreadmaw.
I mean, it was able to transmute for a Injure Explosives once. The card is significantly less powerful in this deck without Amulet of Vigor. You know, like Amulet of Vigor is a crazy good card in this deck because it allows you to find those specialty lands that give it haste and double strike, the Slayer Stronghold and Sunhome Fortress of the Legion. But if those are coming into entering the battlefield tapped.
So here's the transmute on the Stellaria West for Engineered Explosives. Magalhaes set that up what feels like an eternity ago. It was last turn. Stoic Rebuttal will catch that.
Yeah, and this is going to potentially lock it up for Autumn. I don't know that Edgar has a whole lot of recourse here. Can attack with a Primeval Titan. It's going to get blocked by a bunch of stuff, but the body language from Edgar, I think he's out. I think he's done for.
Does not look enthused.
And I was mistaken. He does have 2 more Injured Explosives on the board to go with the 1 in the main deck, so does have the 3rd to find, but the rebuttal is going to lock it down.
A lot of Engineered Explosives in the feature match area this round.
Yeah, it's almost like a colorless way to deal with permanents is good.
Yeah.
Just play it in any deck.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah. Also, it's randomly, what's the blue Mox? Mox Sapphire? It's also just randomly Mox Sapphire in the Urza deck.
That's a good card.
Yeah. Which one, Urza or?
Yeah, this is all just good cards. That's the thing about this deck, right? It's high synergy, but also high power level.
Yep.
A lot of these individual cards, you know, Psy doesn't take too much extra work to make it great. Urza is just nonsense. That card is out of control.
I mean, Autumn went from being stone dead to drawing Urza and then went through multiple combo iterations in the same turn.
So Edgar's going to go find Field of the Dead, make a couple zombies. So the token's close to parity, not quite there. A few to make up. And remember, the old mentors, those have a prowess trigger. Not tough to block through the Primeval Titan and have lethal on the way back. Also, Burchett just at 10. This deck has no reach. Whatever, I'll go to 4.
We'll go to 4.
Here's some lands, here's some zombies.
Yeah, and Edgar flashes the Simic Growth Chamber, just replaying it all the times that he can potentially play it with Zeus's extra land drops. Get a big untap here from Autumn, and with all the cards potentially drawn off of Psy Master Thopterus, all these prowess tokens coming across, this one's looking pretty grim for Edgar, but he does have 6 blockers.
The biggest threat to Burchett, I believe, would be accidentally drawing their entire deck.
Yikes. Well, there's no. I don't think Autumn's deck has any force draw. So once you get to 0 cards, you're just like, okay, can't activate Psy anymore.
Yeah. I will decline to use this ability.
Paradox Outcome for 10. Oh crap! I have 9 cards. Paradox for 9. Changed my mind. It's still on the stack. We're still declaring targets.
So what do we have here? 3, 6, 7, 9 prowess bodies. 2 of them start at 2. The other 7 start at 1. Magalhaes with 6 blockers. So there's 3 that get through, presumably all 1s coming across. So that's 17 to make up across 7. So that's just 3 prowess triggers from here.
That shouldn't be too hard at all.
Yeah, pretty trivial. It's also just Thopters in the air, so it's even less than that. So Bobble, Explosives, more tokens.
Explosives. Doesn't change the math too much.
Would not activate that.
This is fine.
And the Psy can draw some cards too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Last turn, I was actually unsure if Autumn should just keep going. Like, they could have kept activating Psy Master Thopterus multiple times last turn, and if they just drew a couple more cheap artifacts, could have just churned potentially through the rest of the deck all at once. But
what does the deck do to win on that turn?
Grinding Station and or
actually just mill the opponent from there.
Mill the opponent, or potentially just using the Mirrored and Besieged second ability to draw, discard, win. So Autumn doing some math here. 6 blockers. Complete information on Autumn's side because Edgar showed the last card, which was the Simic Growth Chamber. So Autumn here knows that 6 of these Prowess creatures are getting blocked, 3 are getting through. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage from the 1 power creatures. And then 3 Prowess creatures. So 12 damage. 4 spells need to be cast. I think more than 4 spells have been cast. So this is game. I think Autumn's just going through the motions at this point just to make sure that they don't accidentally mess up.
And Burchett has nothing to worry about. Magalhaes' hand is known. It's a land. But nothing's going to go wrong. And they have plenty of material to work with. This deck is not really known for running out of gas. And here's the Grinding Station. How long do you think that Burchett's turn could theoretically take? What's the ceiling on this?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Burchett could literally just probably spin the wheels for at least another 20 minutes just because of how convoluted the interaction is between Grinding Station and Sidemaster Thopterist. Just creates 2 triggers every time you cast an artifact, basically. You know, and then you have to float mana in between, blah, blah, blah.
I will say, this is how I play it on Magic Online. Yeah, make him tap out. Magalhaes, he's at this point seen enough.
I don't make him tap out. I have 6 and go make a sandwich.